me introduce our guest for today, because Dr. Vicki Rackner is a partner with us in this business. That is, we ran across her about 6 or 7 years ago and decided she was the expert in knowing how to connect with doctors, since she is a retired general surgeon. She's also been interviewed in the magazines and TV shows that you see here illustrated in this slide. She's also an author, and you can find some of her books out there on the internet, including her latest one, The Myth of the Rich Doctor. She's also writes for different magazines that are online, so she is an author as well, and provides some editorial content for those subjects as well. She is a fellow of the American College of Surgeons because, hey, she was a surgeon there for many, many years and saw thousands of patients. And she's the medical director and the founder of MIRMA. MIRMA is an organization of medical revenue management people. This association basically certifies the people who go through our training, and at the end of their training, of course, you get a certificate that shows that you are a medical revenue manager. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Dr. Vicki and see if she wants to jump on here live with us today. There's a picture of her. There she is. Hey.
Hey, Patrick. Hello, everyone.
How's the weather up there in Minnesota?
Frigid. Thank you for asking.
I'm always telling her that we're in the 70s and 80s down here in Texas, and she's up there in the, what, 20s, 30s, maybe?
Yes, but I'll tell you, I'm looking out my window. There are some red cardinals at the bird feeder with the snow in the background. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I know. You sent me a picture of your backyard. It looks like a winter wonderland. My grandkids, all 5 of them, would be out there playing in it, believe me, most of the day.
I bet they would be.
All right. Hey, we got a lot of people coming in here. Thank you. I see Irvin and Jamia and Jitesh, Latrell, Lester, Mark, Monica, Rosie, Sandra. So they're continuing to pour in. I guess you are a very popular person right now, Dr. Vicki.
Well, I'm so happy to be here today, Patrick, because I don't know about for you, but for myself, for so many members of my community, this is a time of reassessment. You know, we went through a very, very difficult year. I remain hopeful and optimistic for 2021. And I think we're all trying to figure out how to, including doctors, how do we position ourselves for 2021? Yes. This has been a challenging year.
Yeah. Now, having said that, I happen to know by talking to you the other day that your particular business has tripled this year. So, you know, it depends on the industry you're in, doesn't it, as to whether or not I wouldn't want to be in fast food right now, a restaurant business.
Right, right. And I'll tell you, there are plenty of doctors who are doing very, very well, too. There are a whole lot of doctors who are achieving productivity goals that they had never achieved before. I think that if we are in the business of serving others, anytime there's pain, there's opportunity. And I think that the reason that I've done so well this year is that I decided I wanted to be there to help people navigate this brand new environment. And fortunately, sometimes when you do well, you do good too.
Yeah, and you know, our business, the business of training and teaching and supporting people in the industry of medical billing has just boomed as well, even through the whole COVID thing. In fact, I had a webinar last week. This was for our licensees, people who have already gone through our training and have started their business. But Dr. Vicki, you should have heard some of the stories. We had one lady who just signed up the week before 3 new clients, 3 new doctors to do billing for her. She says right now they're all kind of waking up to the fact that, hey, this year was not so good, but I got to do something to try to make up for it. So they've engaged with her because, of course, she can offer all kinds of services that help them with their cash flow. It's all about cash flow right now.
Absolutely. And I think that we're all thinking about reinvention. You know, who are we? How can we make our contributions? How can we thrive? And that includes doctors. I can tell you that because I work with doctors every day. I hear what they're listening. I hear what they're saying. And I think doctors really are interested in figuring out, okay, in this new world, you know, what do I need to do? in order to, achieve my professional goals.
Yeah, so we mentioned your business, and I kind of skipped over in the introduction there the fact that you do help other people who want to connect with doctors, like financial advisors all over the country. So why don't you
Right.
kind of tell your story about how you were a doctor, you retired and wanted to help other doctors, and what you decided to do about outsourcing your billing.
All right. Well, it's kind of a long story, but let me just give you the headline. The headline is that I think that there's a fundamental difference between people like you, Patrick, and people who are on the webinar, people with a strong business sense and white coats. The people who are in the trenches right now risking their life to treat patients. These are different cultural places. And one of the reasons that doctors need outsourced billers is because they need an infusion of this business mindset. So I'm the person who has built a bridge between these two worlds, and the bridge goes both ways. So for the past decade, I've been helping people build business relationships with doctors. But for 2 decades now, I've been helping doctors thrive. So my story is that I was going to be a scientist. I was in a PhD program in physics when one day I had a surgical emergency, and I was bleeding internally. By the time the surgeons got into my belly, about half of my blood volume was in my pelvis. And when I said my final goodbye, I really thought that that was goodbye. And I was so grateful to wake up that I knew I was going to be a doctor and save other people's lives like my own had been saved. So not surprisingly, I became a surgeon. I went through a very long training period. After my 4 years of undergraduate and my graduate school, I went to medical school for 4 years, then 5 years in surgical residency. And I always knew I wanted to be my own boss, so I went into private practice, but I was feeling a little insecure, and I thought, you know what, maybe I should join somebody else before I just strike out on my own. So I joined a gentleman who had been in practice for many, many years as a solo practitioner. And, he was getting older. He wanted somebody to share a call with him. Well, he had one office manager who described herself as doing everything except operating. She did the scheduling, she did all of the billing, and just kind of ran the practice. And when I came in, I started asking her questions like, how does this work? Like, how do I get paid, and how long does it take to get paid? And one day we came in and there was a letter of resignation on my partner's desk. And in retrospect, what we think happened was that she'd been embezzling from the practice for a long, long time. And with my asking questions, maybe she was a little scared that she was going to get caught. So she resigned. And my partner's wife said, oh, well, you guys need some billing help. So how hard can it be? Why don't I just take some hours away from my tennis game and do your billing for you?
Famous last words.
Oh, yeah. So that quarter, instead of taking money out of the practice, my partner and I made an owner investment to pay the taxes. And it was just a real mess. So we sort of knew that we needed a biller. And as things turn out, I was actually operating at 2 different hospitals. The second hospital at which I was operating was setting up a multidisciplinary breast cancer clinic, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I broke up from my partner and I set up my own practice. And the very first thing that I decided was that I was going to outsource my billing. There's no way that I wanted that kind of disruption in my cash flow. I just wanted to make sure that the money was always coming in. And that turns out to be like one of the best business decisions I made. And I didn't realize it until many years later, because now, not only was I assured of the cash flow, But she sat down and showed me, how things are working, like where most of my profit was coming from, what kinds of patients I actually had to pay for. Like when I did a Medicaid appendectomy, I was actually losing money. Not that I had a choice, of course, but because of the data, I could actually sort of run my practice kind of like a science experiment. And it enabled me to really focus on the things that I both loved to do and turned out to be very profitable. So I am just so grateful for the circumstances that led to my doing that. And when I talk to doctors who are worried about, how are they really going to thrive? I'm always talking with them about two things. Number one, about outsourcing their billing. And number two, how they manage their taxes. Because both of these can be just big holes in their money buckets.
Sure. Well, and working with financial advisors as you do, of course, they can help on the tax end. And working with our business owners, our licensees, we call them, you've helped many of them, I know, to connect with doctors as well. One of the reasons is because in your books, you have a great quote here in the myth book I stuck up there on the screen. You say physicians in private practice walk away from an average of 30% of their incomes when they do not follow up on the rejected insurance claims. And of course, that's what our system does automatically. It makes sure that those claims, first of all, are clean. That is, they don't have any errors, so they go through and don't get rejected. And then we have ways of automatically following up with those claims that are rejected. Ours is less than 2%. In fact, you say here, outsourcing your medical billing could bring claim rejection rates to as low as 2 to 5%. That's true if you have the right system, and we just happen to have the right technology that allows our licensees to tell doctors that they can get it less than 2%. That's what our nationwide rejection rate is. So that last quote there that I put in bold, this may be the fastest and easiest way to increase your cash flow. If we could get every doctor in the United States to just glance at that quote right there, they'd probably want to sign up with us. But that's the challenge as a company. I can't reach all the doctors in the United States, but that's why we train people in various parts of the country and teach them how to go out and engage with those doctors, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just share another really shocking number. Okay. My headline here is that doctors are not good at managing their money. I mean, they're really smart. They know a lot about how the body works, how to treat illness. But when it comes to their financial health, you know much more about business and money than doctors do. In fact, doctors are regularly surveyed about their retirement preparedness, and year after year, there's the same result. Even though doctors make a fair amount of money, only half of doctors describe themselves as on track for retirement. So I know that this must be shocking to you because you must think of doctors as intelligent people who know how to manage things. And in general, they do a great job of managing patients, but not such a great job with managing their money. So when you go in and you become sort of the go-to resource among groups of doctors who will share your names, you're going to be surprised at doctors' naivete. That you, in fact, know a lot more about how to run a business, about how to grow wealth than they do. And they're going to count on you. And in fact, Patrick, I'm thinking maybe the people who are on the webinar, how about if we share The Myth of the Rich Doctor, which is a book about doctors and their relationship with money. And this will give you sort of an insider view of this.
That's a great idea. I'll be looking for that as I'm looking at the question box here. I'm getting a few questions in, and folks, this is your chance to ask questions to a medical doctor. Now, Dr. Vicki, by the way, is not on our staff. She's not a part of ABS. She has her own company. She is a consultant, and we just engaged with her as a consultant. But the great thing is that because she's engaged with us as a company, she also is engaged with you when you become a licensee. And you'll see that, as we're going to show you here today, there are books that she's going to share with you that you can use as marketing tools that have her name on it and that can have your name on there too. Dr. Vicki, I found this quote in somewhere that you said, or maybe heard it online. You said one time, the physician's pain is your opportunity. Would you tell people what you meant by that?
Right. Well, basically, what do people pay for? If you think about your spending, you probably pay to get from point A to point B. Today, there are a lot of physicians in financial pain. And the ABS licensees are able to take advantage of this pain and turn it into business opportunity for themselves. And there, again, there is a fair amount of financial pain. I mean, things are just a little on the crazy side now. But Patrick, I want to get back to something that you just said, because you just kind of sort of slipped that in. And I just want to make sure that people on the line are aware of this little feature of ABS that really sets you apart from anyone else. So the most influential person in a doctor's life is another doctor. I mean, you might be wondering, well, when I decided to outsource my billing, who did I hire? How did I find this person? And I did what most doctors do. I just checked with my buddies and I said, hey, do you outsource your billing? Do you like the person you're working with? And when the same name came coming up again and again, well, that's the person I called and hired. So doctors influence doctors. And if you're going in to see a doctor prospect with a book that has been written by a doctor or a letter of introduction from a doctor, this is a very powerful marketing tool. So what do you need to be successful in your business? Well, you need clients and you need to be able to deliver the work. And getting the doctor clients, this is you'll be dealing with the high barrier to entry. The great news is that everyone who's trying to get to doctors is facing this high barrier to entry, but ABS licensees have some tools to overcome the barrier to entry, to help gain access to doctors in ways that your competition will not.
Yeah, now you just answered a question I get a lot from prospective business owners who are looking into our business. And that is, what sets me apart from everybody else out there that's doing medical billing in the area, and even the doctor's own staff? Well, this is one of the things that we bring to the doctor, an introduction with you and the new licensee right there on the same cover of a book. That gives huge credibility, doesn't it? It
sure does.
You cannot beat being an author of a book or even writing the foreword, which is what we allow our licensees to do. And most of them already just use the standard foreword we've already written, but as you can see, you get your name in the front cover of the book. You get it on the inside page there, right there with Dr. Vicki and my name, and then you get to put your contact information at the end of the foreword. So it's a very personalized, very great, it's a business card basically, isn't it?
Exactly. And I have a lot of people who are using these books as the backbone of their marketing campaigns, because handing out these books just works so very well.
Yeah, here's another one that Dr. Vicki has written for us, 10 critical questions for physicians in private practice, and the single choice that can help your practice to prosper and grow. That's an ingenious way of putting the title on there, because as a doctor, all I'm going to do is try to find what that single choice was that helped, can help my practice to prosper and grow. And of course, it was outsourcing your billing, wasn't it?
Right, exactly. So these 10 critical questions, the answer to all of the questions is outsourcing billing.
Right. It all comes back down to get out of your office the thing that you're not an expert in. Let an expert handle that part of your practice, and you focus on what you're good at, seeing patients and helping people to get and stay well. This book can also be personalized. We put a little area on the back there right below Dr. Vicki's blurb there on the back cover of the book, where you can actually put your contact information, the name of your company, your logo, anything you want to do to personalize that. And believe me, that carries huge weight right there, because psychologically, you're again partnered with a doctor, Dr. Vicki Rackner. So, Dr. Vicki, I've told you this before because we've had this book out several years already, but every time you come out with a new one like this one, and I know that we've got another one about to come out, the 9 ways doctors let money slip through their fingers. That one is going to be a fantastic marketing tool too. So thank you for developing these for our licensees. It's been a great tool for them. We even teach them how to mark them up, highlight certain sections, put little sticky tabs on the book, so when the doctor gets the book, they don't have to read it. They can just flip to those and see all these quotes that will jump out of them, and hopefully get them thinking about their own practice and their cash flow. I like the subtitle of this book here too. Wish it was big enough for me to read it, but I have a real one here somewhere. Here it is. How to get off the hamster wheel, work smarter, not harder, generate more revenue, and enjoy greater career satisfaction in the era of the Affordable Care Act. Well, we're kind of beyond the Affordable Care Act at this point. Who knows what's going to happen with the new administration coming in and so forth. But you know what? I know this, as long as there's human beings and as long as they get sick, as long as they go to a doctor, the doctor has to get paid and somebody has to bill somebody to get the doctor paid. So that's why our business has gone through recessions in the 2008-9 period, and now this COVID thing has slowed stuff down for most businesses. But again, I guess it's because it's healthcare. It just always booms.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the questions here. We got some great questions coming in too, so I'll read those here as we go along too. Okay, let me get back to some other stuff here, because I wanted to talk just a moment about some of these quotes and this little chart right here. One of the things people wonder is why a doctor would not just do their billing in-house versus outsourcing their billing, and even paying you as a one of our licensees who are charging maybe 6 to 7% of the amount that you're collecting for the doctor. As you can see, that'd only be $31,000 a year for a doctor that's doing 20 claims a day on average. Because with all the hidden costs, people don't realize, do they, Dr. Vicki, how many hidden costs there are to run a practice?
Right. And I look at the number side, but I just think about my own practice and how it went. My office person wanted to make me happy, right? If she were running into rejected claims, the last thing she wants to do is tell me, right? Because that makes her look bad. So the thing I liked about outsourced billing is that everyone was aligned in the same way, right? I liked the fact that my person got paid more if she collected more, because I knew that she was going to be dedicated to collecting more. So I think that, it just makes sense to outsource. I remember my CPA at the time told me, oh, rejected insurance claims are great. You get a write-off. You've got high taxes. You need a write-off. And I guess that's one way of thinking. But there are better ways of getting write-offs than not collecting what you're owed. And the thing is that when a doctor hires somebody to do this job, there's really no incentive for this person to raise their hand and say, look, there are some problems here.
Yeah, that's something that people don't think about, is that doctors they've got a lot going on. They have a lot to think about. And this is just one of those things they don't have to focus on if they don't want to, because as you can see from the cost shown there on that chart, you can save a doctor a whole lot of money by just outsourcing it to you, and you'll be collecting more money, because those people inside the doctor's office really don't have any motivation to go out and collect more for the doctor, do they? I mean, I don't think they get a commission or a percentage of the money collected. So, but our licensees do, and that makes it something that is worthwhile for them. Let's see. Here's a question. These books that you offer as part of your services, says Emmanuel, are amazing. Are they offered in digital form as well for use as of digital marketing? Yes. In fact, Emmanuel, we haven't focused on that a lot today, but we've mentioned a couple of times that things are different out there in the marketplace right now. To market to a doctor, you have to be connected in some way digitally out there on the internet. And Dr. Vicki, why don't you mention some of the things that you teach that licensees and others can get involved in that will connect them digitally with the doctors?
All right. So this has really been my focus for the past year. Okay, here's some shocking news. Doctors are on Facebook. They're on Instagram. And they're looking for solutions to problems. And so you now have a way of engaging doctors without ever leaving your home, because you can connect with them. So Patrick, you came to part of my master class about how to engage doctors by delivering webinars.
Yes.
So you can reach out and do that if you want to. You can just make connections with doctors on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and then sort of give them an ethical bribe. You can set up a landing page, which is a one-page website, and invite them to exchange their name and email for your ethical bribe, the book, the webinar, whatever. And then you can just stay in touch with them and deliver value. So the end game that I want you to have in mind is being the go-to guy or the go-to gal among groups of doctors that network together. Kind of like the groups of doctors that I ask, hey, do you outsource your billing? Because you know what? Once you become the go-to guy or the go-to gal, your name will get passed around.
Yes.
So as you know, digital marketing expert Frank Kern says, the best way to show somebody that you can help them is by actually helping them. So you can
Right.
deliver little yummy treats, little pearls of wisdom that will help doctors digitally. And you can leverage that. I mean, you can send out a digital version of the book to 1,000 doctors for exactly the same price as to 10 doctors. And if you're with ABS, that price is $0.
Right. The digital copies, you could just copy that as many times as you want to and send it out. That's right. Let's see. I was going to put that on there in the handout section, and I think I have the myth book here somewhere. Don't know where it went. Okay, I'll keep looking for that. It doesn't show up for some reason, but I'm sure it's down there somewhere. Okay, here's another question. This one is from Jwalish. In this fast-moving, got to zoom in here. In this fast-moving tech era, do you anticipate any AI applications or robotic processes automation, which may take over the existing medical billing process, which currently requires a human being to process these claims manually? Just a thought as I think about the future of this business and think about switching over my career.
I can say with almost near certainty, no. I think that there's going to be a lot of job security. I mean, we have tried algorithms for all sorts of things, and it just does not seem to work very well.
Right.
I mean, I just had my own personal story. I just had bilateral cataract repair, and I had this little conflict with my insurance company because they had originally told me that I could go out of network to have my eyes repaired. But when the ophthalmologist went to get the authorization, they said no. And it took a lot of time and energy to get that resolved. And
Wow.
you know, I'm the kind of person who just knows how to write a letter, and it was just a brilliant letter, if I might say so myself, that I sent to the president of the insurance company, and it got resolved like the next day.
Yeah.
But there are human things that happen, and I do not ever see this being automated because insurance companies are always going to want to not pay. Doctors are always going to want to get paid. And from my vantage point, the future is bright. What about from your vantage point, Patrick?
You know, it's funny because I actually thought back in the early 90s when my wife was doing medical billing, we were doing it on paper. You know, we put it in a typewriter and then eventually in a computer, but it was all manual, I mean, on paper. And I thought, well, you know, if all doctors eventually have computers and it's all electronic, they won't need us at all to do the billing. Well, what happened was it got even more difficult for doctors to figure out how to use a computer than it was a typewriter. And so a lot of them got bogged down in the technology part, spending thousands of dollars on IT people who would keep everything running for them. And they don't want to do the billing, but they feel like, well, somebody's got to do it. I might as well do it myself, because they feel like they have control over it. The great thing about our system is we can give them access. Any of our licensees can give access to any of their doctor clients, and they can see inside our system. I mean, literally just see all the money that's there waiting for them to be collected. So there's no reason to have it inside your office anymore when you can have access to the exact system that your biller's using, you know.
Yeah. Now, something that could happen, I'm not saying it is going to happen, but what if the US goes to a single payer system? Well, from my perspective, even if we do, there's still going to be billing. What do you think, Patrick?
Oh, I know that because I had a guy who was up in Canada, and I told him, well, you know, you can't do billing in Canada through our system because those are different, you know, than American doctors. We're based on a different system. And he said, well, you know, the funny thing is that I looked and did some research, and there are lots of medical billing companies in Canada, even though it's a single payer system. And I said, well, why is that? He said, well, because there's about a dozen different entities, government entities, that the government wants the doctors to bill. And so it's still a mess, and it's still a manual thing that the doctors just don't want to get bogged down in. So they outsource it there in Canada as well. I think there'll always be a need for somebody who's an expert in this field because, again, it can't be left to the AI. They would basically send claims in that would never get paid and may get the doctor in trouble by using codes that the doctor should not have used, you know. So it takes somebody who is a human being who's up on this, or at least a part of a nationwide network like our licensees are, to take this and run with it. Okay, so Rosie says, okay, great, then the digital books comes with the package. That's right, Rosie. You get all the books in digital format that you can use any way you want to. Now, we also let you print those books. We have a physical printed version of the book. I think I've got one here somewhere. Well, here's one that's about to come out, but I'll show you. It's a paperback book, you know, about 200 pages, that's on the internet. And all of these books are available in print form too, at a very low cost. We actually print your name on the cover and the inside and everything for around $4 a copy. It's just amazing what you can do with, they call it print on demand, you know. Let's see, Emmanuel says, is there any part of this business that an owner can outsource or automate for more efficiency? Well, Emmanuel, it's amazing that you asked that question, because last week we had some licensees on one of the webinars for other licensees that said that they were actually doing billing for other people that got into this business and did not have the time to learn the system or feel comfortable with it. So for some of their first clients, they would just outsource it to some of the people that's in our network. Now you're splitting the money. So if you're charging the doctor, let's say 6%, you're going to get 3% maybe, and the person who's actually doing the billing gets 3%, but still they're making good money for doing the billing. You're making money. You don't do anything but go to your mailbox and get a check each month. So yes, you can outsource even some of this yourself. Mark is on here. Dr. Vicki says, I just left the IT field after 22 years for this. Maybe he's a new licensee getting into the business at least.
Well, welcome. I'd be interested in hearing more about your story, but I think you had the business vision to see the opportunity here, so congratulations.
Yeah, he says, yes, I'm in the business. Thank you. Okay, that's great, Mark. Welcome aboard. Sometimes I can't even keep up, Vicki. There are weeks that go by that we don't have anybody who signs up for our training and our license, we call it, for the package. But there are some weeks that have so many I can't get to all of them. So I guess that's a good thing, huh?
It is. It is.
All right, let's see. Jathesh, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Jathesh says, how fast the doctor go to their own internal billing platform? I'm not quite sure what the question means there, but I think a lot of people ask if the doctor has their own platform, can they switch over to ours? And the answer is yes. We can even export all of the patient data out of their system directly into ours, and then you're just up and running and you start submitting any new claims using our system there.
So I just wanted to mention something that sounds pretty weird, and maybe it's just because of my own personal experience, but you know, a lot of doctors are interested in having checks and balances in their practice, right?
Yeah.
We had somebody we are pretty sure was involved with embezzlement. You know, I'm a contributor to the medical practice management, and the editor said that, you know, in every section, in every edition, they have something about theft and fraud because this is something that really worries doctors. Doctors are very vulnerable. There is a lot of theft. And so one of the ways I think that doctors can actually get more control, paradoxically, is by outsourcing. And, you know, as you're going out there and speaking with doctors, you might want to sort of keep that in the back of your mind, that this is a real hot button for them.
Yes, they would rather have it in the hands of somebody who's doing billing, not just for them, but maybe a dozen other, you know, practices as well. That keeps you up on what's going on. You're very sharp at what you do, and that's why we have instructors who teach new people who come into the business. These instructors are people who've actually gone through the training themselves. They've established their own practice. They've been in practice for a couple of years. They've taught for us for a couple of years, and these are people who are willing to share their knowledge of what really works in the business with you. Dr. Vicki, I think one of the things you mentioned earlier was something that we should touch on too. You said that you had a letter of introduction. Let me put that up on the screen here for people who would like to see that this is a real letterhead, Dr. Vicki's letterhead, where she actually will introduce you as a new person who's opening up a local office of our nationwide network of medical revenue managers, and she'll introduce you to the doctors in your area. I thought this was an ingenious idea. Thank you for doing that, Dr. Vicki.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'll tell you why I did it. I ran my own practice. I know what my front office staff did. You know, they screened everything. To get to me, you had to go through them. And so they could make two mistakes. They could let something through that I didn't want to see, or they could keep something out that I wanted to see. And I will tell you that they would never screen out a letter from another doctor. So that's right. Why I suggested that I write this letter for the ABS licensees.
Yeah, and this is a great letter to include with a copy of the book. Now, we're going to teach you exactly how to mark the book up, as I said earlier, but we're also going to show you exactly how to use that book and get it in the hands of the doctor, because sometimes if you just left a book or handed this to the office manager up front, she might not get it to the doctor's desk, who knows? But when you do it the way we teach you to do it, it will bypass her or him completely and get right on the desk of the doctor. That's what they want, is to engage directly with you as a business owner. And we do it in such a practical way that they can't help but be impressed with that. Now, one of the things we're getting into here recently is something called telehealth. The COVID, the virus, of course, has caused a lot of doctors to start using digital technology to connect with their patients. But this article in Physician's Practice even goes further into that, Dr. Vicki, and talks about virtual care and how important that is for a continuum of care. In other words, once the patient has come to see the doctor, sometimes because of their age or health or whatever, they can't get out that often. So the doctor can engage with them so that they can do remote patient monitoring and other services. This is a flyer that we've just recently developed for that new service. This is something that licensees can offer to doctors that can actually earn the doctor more money in their practice, and they really don't have to do a whole lot. They're able to give the patients enhanced care, improved outcomes, increased revenue. It's just an amazing system, and we're just now introducing that for 2021. So this is one of those little glimpses into the future for licensees that they don't realize that we are constantly looking for other sources of revenue for us, and of course for them as well. Dr. Vicki, I think it's important that doctors realize that they need to learn how to use technology to manage. There's some things that just do not have to have a face-to-face visit.
Well, this has been a huge transformation this past year. I cannot even begin to describe it for you. So one example, I used to attend the annual meeting of the American College of Surgeons. This year it was completely virtual. It was all online. So I think that, you know, your ability, a doctor's ability to build a business relationship with a patient has been transformed. The ability of somebody who has something to offer to doctors, like the ABS licensees, their ability to engage doctors virtually has transformed things. It's a new world. And doctors are different too. Like, I know a neurologist who has completely shut down his physical office. He is just doing all of his visits virtually. So I don't know what that means about his office staff, but my guess is that, you know, this is a guy who's probably outsourcing his billing now.
My grandson, he's 17 years old. He works for Chick-fil-A here locally. And I asked him about the business and how it had been affected by this virus. They still are not letting people come into the dining room area. He said, our business has almost doubled because the drive-through became so important that we put people outside taking the orders. It's very efficient. I mean, it doesn't take you but a second to get through that line. And he said, we're actually selling more product than we were when people had to get out of the car and come into the place to eat there, because they can take it home and, you know, eat it at home. Anyway, I think that's true of a lot of businesses, that they're booming because of this whole thing. Like you said, every pain that we come across in business is another opportunity.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Let's see, here's one more slide on that estimated economic impact. This is slides that we've developed to show some of our licensees as we introduce this new service, that they'll be able to make. Here's one example of one service, Vicki, that they can introduce to a doctor, and once it's in there, it's just automatic. They literally will go to the mailbox each month and pull out a check, and they can make up to $37,000 a year from just this one service of helping the doctor get involved in the virtual care and, you know, follow up for patients. So there are things, I think, that are just, Emmanuel even asked the question here. He says, does the medical billing have the possibility of growing into additional services that may help doctors, whatever that can be? Yes, Emmanuel, the great thing is you're in business for yourself. You can add any new services you want, just like Dr. Vicki does to her business. You come up with the new stuff so often, I can't even keep up. I don't know how you've just got a brain that just never stops, I guess. It just goes on and on. Well, folks, this is your last chance to ask questions. I'm going to be letting Dr. Vicki get back to her busy business. I know she's got people and clients that she's dealing with out there too. Meanwhile, I'll take just whatever questions come in for her. Just think of her as sitting right here in front of you, and this is a question you would ask her if you knew I wasn't listening.
Okay, and you can ask me anything you want. Anything you want to know about how doctors think, how they make choices, whether this is a good opportunity. And I'm just going to mention that I am a serial entrepreneur. I get involved with all sorts of things, and I sort of have my criteria to decide, do I want to invest my energy in this or that? And I'm always asking myself, okay, am I getting myself in a growth industry? I mean, can you imagine the people who are involved in the travel industry right now and how tough that is?
Oh,
well,
boy.
you know, people are always going to need health care. And so this is an industry that is going to stay. And as we look at how we recovered from the recession in 2008, the number one sector that recovered the most quickly was healthcare. And I see similar opportunities arising now. I'm just seeing it unfolding with the COVID pandemic. So is there a market? Check. Okay, number two, is there a way of reaching the market and actually selling something that somebody wants to buy? Check. ABS has a long history of success. They've got a system that will help you engage doctors. And then third, is there a future? I mean, is there a future for you to earn the kind of income that you want, have the kind of lifestyle that you want? And Patrick, it's always so great to hear about these licensees who are making more money than the doctors.
Yeah, some of them are. I was just amazed the other day. I interviewed a licensee who was saying that he billed a doctor $350,000 a month. This is a specialist of some kind, and yeah, if you do that times 6%, isn't that about $20,000 a month for the licensee? So it can be a very lucrative business to get into. Of course, not everybody's going to reach that level, but it shows you that the possibilities there. There's no ceiling up here that you're going to hit. You can get as many doctors as you want. They can be in any state of the United States. You can bill cross states. So we have licensees who literally have clients coast to coast. Yeah, here's a great quote here from the Health Internet Technology, I think is what that stands for, HIT consultant. The revenue cycle management market, that's what we're in, right? Revenue cycle management, that's the billing. Currently valued at $20.5 billion, is estimated to reach $40.4 by 2022. I think this was in 2019 that this quote came out. So here we are, almost still a year away, and it's going to be a $40 billion industry. It doesn't get any better than that. So, Dr. Vicki, let me ask you this. I've got a fellow here asking a question here that's kind of like, I don't know whether to ask it or not, but Alan wants to know, what kind of money does a surgeon make, or a doctor that's a specialist? I'm
happy to share that with you. Well, first of all, you can find this online, right? So every year, Medscape does surveys with physicians. There are all sorts of surveys. You can go and sign up for a free Medscape account. So these are all self-reported, but an orthopedic surgeon is probably at the top of the list. They generally will generate about $500,000 a year. And so, you think about how much you have to bill in order for an orthopedic surgeon to actually declare $500,000 in income. Yeah. It's not, I think that the mean general surgeon is $400,000 to $500,000. There's a lot of variation throughout the United States. Like in Minnesota, it takes a lot for, for somebody to come here. So the salaries are a little higher to balance sort of the pain and anxiety of living in Minnesota. So depending on your part of the country, it's highly variable. But even when you look at the survey numbers, so like primary care is on the bottom of the income. But I know primary care practitioners who are earning 7 figures because they've hired PAs, they've hired nurse practitioners, and so they're really scaling. So even if you're looking at survey numbers, that doesn't necessarily reflect the true revenue and the opportunity for you with any individual.
Yeah, I'm amazed when I hear licensees tell me what they are billing for doctors, because I can do the math on that and know that those doctors are, for example, if a doctor's billing $350,000 a month, he's not keeping all of that. He obviously has some costs involved, but he's still dragging in the coins. That's pretty good revenue. So it
Right.
is a profitable way to, for somebody who wants to make a lot of money, become a doctor. But folks, there's not many ways to become a doctor after you've already got your family going and you're out of school and, you can't go back. Usually most people can't. You could rob a bank. That might be one way to get a lot of money, or win the lottery, which is rare that anybody does that. But most people who are wealthy in the United States make their money because they own their own business.
Right. And so the really interesting thing about doctors is, the reason I wrote the book, The Myth of the Rich Doctor, is everyone thinks doctors are rich.
Right.
And just not true. I mean, you could transform the life of a doctor. I don't think people go into medicine for the money. It's too hard. And you need to have a real dedication to service in order to do that. And so here are all these doctors working really, really hard and just making some pretty bad business choices. And, a licensee could potentially turn that whole situation around.
That's right. We basically are problem solvers. We have the solution to the cash flow crunch that a doctor is in. And all we have to do is let them know that we can help them. We've got methods that we've worked out over the past 26 years, exactly how to do that. Dr. Vicki has helped us develop ways of approaching doctors that are just mind-blowing, things I would have never thought of, and probably wouldn't ever, the average person wouldn't, because they're not a doctor. You have to have your mindset.
Well, it's my pleasure. And I'm always developing new things. Like, this past year, it's been about virtual relationship building. How do you build a business relationship when you can't sit down with them knee to knee and look them in the eye? And I imagine things will continue to change and evolve, and I'll do my best to stay ahead of the curve wherever the curve goes.
Yeah. Well, hey, Dr. Vicki, I've even got people asking questions about, is there a way I can pick her brain to help me grow my business somewhere down the line? There are ways to do that. Again, being partners with Dr. Vicki, we have ways to arrange those meetings with our licensees who need some special brainstorming, I guess you'd call it. I know you love to do that with me, so I guess you would do that with other people too.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention the regular webinars that I do with you for your licensees. So we do bring these ideas regularly.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Vicki, thank you so much for being a part of this today. I know it's good for people to hear from somebody who's not me or some of my staff, somebody who's outside but has an objective view of what this business can do for people. And you've seen over the years what it does for our licensees who get in there. It's just like anything. The ones who really work the business make a lot of money, and those who don't do anything with it don't do a lot with it. So, okay. Well, I've got some more questions here, but they have to do with specific things about the business itself. Here's Jitesh says, Happy New Year's wishes to Dr. Vicki.
Oh, thank you. And to you too. I hope that this is a year of health and profitability and reward for everyone. So Patrick, thank you for inviting me to be here. It's always such a delight to think about, more people going out and helping more doctors.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. All right. Thanks again, Dr. Vicki. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.